Colossos Kampf der Giganten is the original Intamin Pre-Fabricated wood coaster at Heide Park. Colossos is the German park's signature attraction, and it was recently refurbished back in 2019 with a full retrack and a retheme. This ride's American cousin is El Toro, and that ride has gotten way more recognition. But Colossos has a lot of similarities, both good and bad. So in this video, I will review Colossos and explain why it may be actually running better than El Toro at this present time. Colossos opened back in 2001 as Europe's tallest and fastest wood coaster. While Wildfire Colmartin has since passed Colossos in these categories, Colossos is still one of the biggest woodies out there. This ride stands 164 feet or 50 meters tall, and it really makes its mark on Heide Park's skyline. The first drop and camelbacks run along the perimeter of the park all by its lonesome, which accentuates this coaster's scale. Most wood coasters are carved and shaped on site, but Colossos was an entirely different animal. It was the prototype prefabricated or plug-and-play wood coaster from Intamin. The coaster's track was precisely laser cut in a factory, so the assemblers on site just had to snap them together like Lego bricks. This allowed the coaster to feature more extreme elements than prior wood coasters. For example, Colossos hits 4.5 positive Gs, which is astronomical for a wood coaster. And the ride also some powerful ejector airtime, as low as negative 1.5 Gs according to Intamin. This was also designed to provide a smoother ride, but the prefabricated track was both a blessing and a curse. On day one, this track style offers the smoothest ride of any wood coaster. It's smoother than most steel coasters, but the ride can develop potholes over time that can jar your back. If you've ridden El Toro, you know what one of these sections feels like. It's a different roughness than your traditional wood coaster that shakes you side to side. This feels like a compression to your back. The more complicated track construction makes it harder and costlier to retrack the Pre-Fabs. Six Flags Great Adventure has been retracting sections of El Toro over the past decade, but the two earliest Pre-Fabs have needed a full retrack recently. The first to suffer this fate was Colossos. The ride was closed in 2016 after 15 years of operation. The park determined the ride's track too damaged to operate. Balder at Liseberg closed earlier this year for the same reason. Colossos originally cost 21 million euros to build in 2001, and it needed 12 million euros of repairs. There was some concern if Heide Park would actually invest that much in a pre-existing attraction, but the park saw value in saving their star attraction. After sitting closed for 2.5 years, Colossos triumphantly reopened in 2019. The ride was made smooth as glass once again, and it also received some new theming. In a bold move, the park tied the ride's 2.5 years of closure into the story. Right before you board, there's a projection screen explaining why the ride sat idle in the park's skyline for 3 years, and during this time, a dark power rose from the ground and tried to defeat Colossus. The station is filled with an eerie soundtrack, and vines reminiscent of those from Stranger Things' Upside Down. But most prominently, the final bunny hill passes through a giant wooden monster, and this is one of the coolest theming elements ever. The monster is holding a piece of old Colossus' track, creating a terrifying fake-out and head chopper. Then the belly you pass through is filled with fog. Last but not least, the monster spurts out fire from its head as you approach it. This is an incredible visual for both riders and spectators. There's no other theming along the course, but that's fine because the elements are strong enough on their own. Colossus is the most popular ride at Heide Park. The ride routinely is the longest line in the park. It's not uncommon to see the line around the 45 to 60 minute mark. There are 3 ways to beat the crowds. 1. Arrive early and head there first. The ride is in the very back of the park, so you can usually get 1 to 2 rides before most people reach it. 2. Use the Express Butler Skip the Line Pass. You can either purchase the unlimited option, or purchase single shots for roughly 9 euros. 3. Use the single rider line. After everyone else is loaded, enough single riders are released to fill the train, and you can choose whatever vacant seat you see. This line has been pretty short in my visits. Operations on Colossus are pretty good. The crew frequently has the next train ready to go before the prior one hits the brake run. And that's pretty impressive because Colossus is a long 15-row train, and the restraints are also pretty unaccommodating to larger guests, which is no surprise if you're familiar with El Toro. One improvement over El Toro is that the train has lights for each individual seat to determine if it's verified. Meanwhile on El Toro, the crew only knows if an entire car is good to go, which makes it trickier to recheck restraints. The seat belts are also able to be checked from the outside of the train, which helps Colossus' crew check them faster. From a rider perspective, the restraints are identical to El Toro with the U-shaped lap bar and those seat belts. These restraints are plenty comfortable and make it easy to experience the airtime because the restraint is resistant enough to lowering further during the ride. It's also worth noting the trains are just 5 cars long, as opposed to 6 cars long. Now my favorite seats by far are in the back car. One of the operators who is a fellow coaster enthusiast swears the very back row is significantly better than all of the rows even in the back car. But I personally found all 3 rows in the back car equally as great. And because this ride is recently retracked, it's running super smooth in every row. There's no need to worry about a wheel seat in this wood coaster. It's running like El Toro in its early years. Once dispatched, the music changes its tune and you hear chains as you slowly ascend the giant lift hill. It faces away from the park towards vast fields, but you do get a cool view of Heide Park if you look behind you. Colossus starts off pretty similarly to El Toro. The first 2/3 have identical elements, they just ride a little different here. After turning to the right, you approach one of the best drops on any wood coaster. Now this drop isn't nearly as steep as El Toro's. Colossus only has a max angle of descent of 61 degrees, but that's still quite steep for a wood coaster. You get a great burst of ejector airtime for the first half of the drop, but then it cuts off. It's similar to the airtime you get in the early Intamin Hypers in terms of duration. I think that's for 2 reasons. 1, you hit that max angle pretty quickly. 2, there's a trim on the drop that does grab the train. And speaking of that, there are trims in the first 2 camelbacks as well. I actually didn't notice them on my back car rides at first, but I did feel all 3 trims slow the train down a tad on my front row rides. This prevents Colossus' start from matching that of El Toro, but it's still maybe 75% of that ride, which is still elite. The first drop, and the first few valleys on this coaster for that matter, have sharp pullouts that deliver good positive Gs. These forces are similar to what you get in El Toro's first half. Next are back-to-back camelbacks. Camelback 1 is exceptional. It's probably the best part of the ride. It's just a hair worse than one of El Toro's camelbacks, as it delivers several seconds of powerful ejector airtime, and it doesn't matter where you sit, you will be launched out of your seat. Camelback 2 is more seat dependent. Those in back get good ejector airtime, although it isn't quite as sustained as the first one. Those up front get more sustained airtime, but it's more like very strong floater airtime. It feels really weird to get sustained floater like this on Intamin Pre-Fab, because this model is famous for the ejector airtime. But sustained airtime is always a delight for me. Next is the far turnaround. It's profiled identically to El Toro's, but I think this one has better forces and comfort. The rise into the turnaround gives a decent pop of airtime for those up front. Then the twisted dive back down to the ground offers fantastic positive Gs. This pullout does have a bit of a shake to it, but it's way smoother than its brother in New Jersey. I always dread this part in El Toro as of late. You then rise upwards and navigate a sizable drop to kick off the return run. And if you're in back, you'll get a nice burst of floater airtime. Next is a speed hill. Now it has always baffled me why this hill is so weak in El Toro and Colossus. The train has a ton of speed, but this hill just simply is not that strong. It only gives some weak floater airtime if you're in the very back car. Now this is where Colossus starts to deviate from El Toro. Rather than going into the Rolling Thunder Hill and the Twister section, Colossus has a giant helix and a series of bunny hills. Now that helix is a buzzkill. It's the one element on Colossus that feels slow, because it is. It really disrupts the pacing of the ride. It does have some very weak and sustained laterals, but it just doesn't have the speed or intensity of the ride's first half. I also want to note that I did feel some light bumps in my 2022 rides. They didn't cause any discomfort, but it's worth monitoring given this ride's history. Colossus then navigates 3 consecutive bunny hills. Now I always envision these hills giving thigh-crushing ejector airtime, much like the final hills on Intamin Hyper or on Balder. Now I've only ridden Colossus since the refurb, but these hills do not offer anything like that. In the back, I honestly think they're more like the final hills on a B&M Hyper because you get solid and mildly sustained floater airtime. Towards the front, the airtime is much briefer, but the pops have some more power to them. Plus, you have that amazing visual with the monster and the final bunny hill to accompany that airtime. While the finale is less intense than that of El Toro, I do prefer the airtime hills over the twister section personally, but Baldur's finale beats both rides handily. Colossus then rounds one final turn. This turn looks and is pretty slow, but it does offer some mild laterals at least. You then hit the magnetic brakes and smoothly come to a stop, ending the 4,409 foot or 1,344 meter long coaster. Now I hinted at it, but Colossus' pacing is uneven, just like El Toro. The first third is fantastic. Colossus is one of the best starts of any coaster. I love that first drop and the first two camelbacks. Even that turnaround is forceful. The middle section has a lull though with that speed hill and the large helix. Colossus does pick things up with the finale, but those hills are merely good and not elite like the ride's start. So what would I rate Colossus? I would give this iconic wood coaster a 9 out of 10. Most of that is earned by this ride's outward leg. The first drop and giant camelbacks are why I love Colossus. Getting speed and sustained ejector airtime like that is spectacular. While the airtime over the ride's final two-thirds isn't nearly as intense, Colossus still finds ways to get you out of your seat or pin you to the side of the train. And this ride has more to offer with the atmospheric theming in the station, the music, and that impressive statue towards the end. Now, do I prefer this ride to El Toro? Maybe. I think El Toro has the stronger elements and intensity, but Colossus is smoother and more re-rideable. Plus those elements are no slouch, and this ride has the theming that does add to the experience. These two rides are right next to each other in my ranks. I see so many people rating El Toro in their top 10 lists, and if you love El Toro, I think you'll love this ride as well. So those are my thoughts on Colossus at Heide Park. What are your thoughts on the original Intamin Pre-Fab? Let me know down below, especially if you rode it right before the ride closed in 2016. I'd love to know how the ride changed from an airtime and or smoothness perspective. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.